Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy to have you with us for this fifth webinar, COMFORTage webinar, which is going to tackle a very important subject, I think, today, because we are all dealing with innovation, digital technology, and we are at the edge of a revolution. But basically, this revolution seems to be somewhat difficult, although the evidence is sometimes already there, but difficult to integrate for many reasons. And so we will be today, and I will start very quickly by reminding the people who have not attended previous webinars what COMFORTage is about, but quite quickly, and then we will immediately go into the real topic we want to deal with today. So basically what we aim to do in this project, which is a quite large project involving 12 countries and 39 partners, is to try not only a pan-European, but also, I would say, a quite innovative framework, as it integrates both research and clinical practice. And also, it's very much focused on trying to look at data, at a data pipeline which would support prevention, monitoring, and the progression of diseases such as dementia and frailty. So basically, the data which are collected and injected in the platform are coming from multiple sources and basically should aim at diagnosing, but also providing the beginning of a care pathway adapted to each single individual case. So in this specific work here, we have been already presenting 4 webinars in the past. This is the 5th one, where we have been trying to address, starting from analyzing the needs and then looking at the type of interventions and digital tools which have been developed, then understanding what is currently in the mind of political and policymakers, and trying to see what should be done to connect better the social and healthcare domain. And today we're going to see and try to have a reflection on this key question on: do we need to collect differently evidence? Do we need more evidence to support adoption of innovative digital services? And we might have this last one later in the year. So basically, very quickly, what we aim to do is to define an optimal therapy scenario. But before therapy, there is diagnosis, and before diagnosis, there is prevention. So it's not only about the therapy, but the collection of a number of data and the use of innovative tools to assess the exposure of people to risk and to critical risk related to dementia and frailty is probably the very first step of this scenario. So we know since quite a time now that those risk factors have with different kind of ponderation a very important role. They're the ones that you see on the right side of the screen. But what is really important is to be aware of the tremendous public health impact of dementia and frailty on the health systems. And to know that basically it's just not like a fate where nothing can be done. No, 50% of people affected by disease are not at risk of dementia. And for the people who are at risk of dementia, there is something which really can be done with the possibility to reduce, to delay the onset of the disease. And we have more and more positive prospects in this regard, which are coming in the coming years. And thus the early diagnosis of it is really critical. And can have, as you can see here, a very important impact for the people, as for life expectancy in particular, but also for quality of life in particular. So what we here just started from is to say that, well, basically, as we don't have in Europe a clinical pathway for dementia and for Alzheimer, for example, in particular, what should we put our main focus today upon in order to have a new way to look at the disease and to tackle it as early as possible. So now, quickly shifting to our discussion for today, evidence, prevention, AI. Those are the three keywords which are at the core of the discussion. And the four questions I propose you to discuss is those ones. Is evidence the key for wide-scale adoption today? Are there alternatives to RCT to provide evidence faster? And does AI change the way evidence can be collected? And can we speed up the adoption of validated dementia screening tools? Could we start without having, for example, 3 to 4 or 5 years of long clinical trials, and how this could be then organized and with kind of partners? So the first question is evidence the key to market and deployment? And basically, I just took a few statements to start the discussion. Why does health tech with lots of clinical evidence lack adoption, but tech with no evidence spreads like wildfire? That's statements coming from the social networks, so that can be a bit provocative. But another one, which is healthcare operates on a familiar, almost rhythmic frustration. Progress arrives, but it rarely arrives fast. New ideas enter the conversation early, then spend years and years navigating the labyrinth of regulatory approvals, reimbursement thresholds, and clinical trust. Healthcare systems tend to adopt tools that are easier to deploy, but not necessarily those with the strongest evidence base. And we are still benchmarking AI inside journals instead of inside the economic systems it has to survive it. So that's just to launch the debate. And if you look at those two drawings, I think they say very much the same, basically, where you see this nice guy on the left side with this picture, say they just bought a wonderful tech platform. And they say, well, that's just simple now. We just need to copy paste it in our care pathway content. And well, you say that just take a week. We know, all of us, that that's not what's happening. And the key problem is just the less of integration of digital tools in routine care pathways. And on the right side, you see another one, which is really interesting, where you see here on the left side, a lot of prize winners, but with absolutely an empty room. Those tools have been validated with wonderful clinical evidence being collected, but remain unused. Why? You see all those clinicians queuing up and using all of them AI scribes, although most of those tools, which are already deployed in many hospitals today, have not been validated by large RCTs. So, if I just show those two pictures, again, that's the same thing. We have a lot of evidence that opportunistic AI images can actually detect very early a number of critical diseases. And the evidence is there already. There's not so much more need of evidence, but it's as most of those tools have not reached the target and the users yet. And you see on the right side all the publications, and you can see here that all the medical conditions that we are speaking about, some of them are really focused on what we do, like Alzheimer's disease, for example, with the retinal scan of the eye, which, as you can see here, can provide an incredible number of information on a very, very important medical condition. But who knows about it? Who uses and why? It is not used today. It's just this picture coming from the American Medical Association, which has been surveying physicians in 2024 on how they would like to what they expect to start incorporating AI use cases in their practice. And as you can see here, the AI scribe comes very much on top of the list, and many are already using it. But everything which is linked to prediction of health risk, quality gaps, treatment outcomes, and patient health facing health recommendations is very low on the list. So some are testing it, as you can see, but the huge number, it's only 40%, expect to test it, but it's far away from the other AI functionality. So has clinical evidence itself ever been the reason for adoption after all? Well, again, a few statements to finish. Some would say what actually matters is whether a health system is desperate to solve a problem. As long as it's not conscious that they have a problem, the technology can be wonderful, it won't move. There will be no motivation to bring this solution to implementation. AI works, but no one is designated to act on what it finds. That's another key problem. There is a whole spectrum of new roles and new possibilities and new actors which can use those data. And we know that if we remain with the traditional roles, the clinicians, the GPs are overburdened, the hospitals are completely ruined and have a lot of difficulty to find resources, both human and human or financial resources. So we need to have different channels to probably. We need monitoring frameworks that track not just diagnostic accuracy, but safety, efficiency, and cost. And the science has reached a point where trials are justified. We can't get to high performance medicine relying on generative AI for key decisions without that. But by the time peer-reviewed papers are published, the model success are outdated. Another very important problem, the life cycle. If you do everything which has to be done, basically somebody else will have a better product before you. Evidence keeps the door from closing, but it's not sufficient to open the door. That's another important statement, I think. And those who succeed in selling into healthcare realize it's about relationship, trust, and change management. And the very last one, if we scale opportunity screening without a stateful multi-agent layer to filter and prioritize these findings, we risk triggering a wave of incidental that could overrun primary care. So now, to put all those questions into perspective, we have a chance to have with us today four wonderful speakers. And the first one will be Sergi Valero. Sergi is working at ACE, the Alzheimer Center in Barcelona. And he's a very active participant in the COMFORTage project. And he will be speaking about something that he really is passionate for and he really believes in. And he will try to show us how he thinks this can be, which kind of evidence is needed, how he plans to collect it, and how he sees it being implemented beyond its own practice. Sergi, the floor is yours.
My intention today is to talk about a specific biomarker that is based on the analysis of spontaneous speech. First of all, let's see who we are. Alzheimer Center Barcelona, it's a private non-profit institution that we have an agreement with the public system, with the Catalan health system, okay? We have an historical clinical record of more than 30,000 files. We visit every year more than 2,000 new patients and we follow them. In fact, every year we follow 8,000 patients per year. And the AI program that I'm in charge on was created at the beginning of the 2025. So we are having in the last years, as you can imagine, we have our own memory unit. So we have patients where the match is already done. So when we want to do part of our research, our mission is to act before symptoms appear. So what's the old paradigm? So we know in this context, in this old paradigm, no early signals are detected, symptoms appears, diagnosis as late stage. We are deploying treatment when the damage is done, missed prevention window, we have lost this opportunity, and everything in the context of the high cost and low impact. So what we are trying to do is to move the focus from this old frame to a new one, based on the detection of early signals, biological, digital biomarkers. What we want to do is risk stratification thanks to the use of AI and the use of multimodal data. We have a lot of data to do this. The focus is to an early and personalized action. We want to find better outcomes, long health span, and for sure, a sustainable system, and to generate lower cost in our actions. So to do this, we have something really interesting, that is the analysis of language. This is not new for you. You know very well that memory and executive functions are the key elements in the definition of the disorder, okay? But we also know for the last 30 years that language, it's an extremely very complex function that has some interesting properties, yeah? Because as you know also very well, even 10, 20 years before the appearance of the first symptoms, there are some changes in our brain that are accessible if we have the specific and the necessary tools. And language is a very interesting framework in this field. We know that we can imagine that language is something very interesting, because it's, if not one of the most, probably the most common social behavior. And it's easy to find, to identify in others, and to analyze it. So we can say that language is an open window beyond reach the other classical cognitive domains. So this is, quickly, this is a timetable about our experience in this framework. At the beginning of everything, obviously, I'm talking about the beginning of 2022, we have no specific experience in analyzing spontaneous speech. We had no idea about this. Okay, we have an extensive experience analyzing language, obviously language, memory, attention, etc., etc. We have the memory unit, and we have our own neuropsychological team. Yeah, they control the assessment of these several domains, but nothing was done by our institution in terms of analyzing spontaneous speech using computational approaches, AI, etc., etc. So we had the opportunity, and it was an extraordinary opportunity for us to be part of a consortium, thanks to a next generation proposal, that the main target was the creation of a federated net. So in the context of this federated, in the context of this project, several disorders were focused here. For example, degenerative macular degenerative, cancer of prostatic cancer, okay, and also Alzheimer's disease. And the first of our targets in the context of this cluster of Alzheimer was to deploy a project in terms of analyzing speech, spontaneous speech, in order to detect the first subtle changes in the brain, in order to detect and to prevent the future appearance of dementia condition. So we start, thanks to this first step, thanks to this next generation project. And then we have also the opportunity to deploy our own pipelines. And I say pipelines in plural because it's depending on the output that you want to focus on, and depending on the population that you want to approach, you have to generate your different pipelines. And we have also the opportunity to work in different scientific papers in order to construct for the first time our first framework in this field. 2 years ago, we have another excellent opportunity that was to create a new agreement with Punto. Punto, it's a small company focused on the analysis of not only the analysis of language, but also deploying some digital programs focused on dementia. But for us, the most interesting thing was the model, the cluster that they have in terms of the computational approach of the analysis of spontaneous speech. So we have this agreement, and we have the opportunity for the first time to have our own digital platform to deploy this project. And then most recently, we have contact with the pharmaceutical industry. We have our own clinical department, clinical trial department, okay? So, and this contact with pharmacy allows us to have some specific budget to deploy this kind of projects. Talking about our scientific activity, what I'm showing you here is just our last paper. It has less than 2 weeks, okay? And this is an excellent example of our activity. Do we want to the substitution of the standard diagnosis process? The answer is no. But we have to demonstrate that using this digital biomarker, we have the capacity to discriminate, and very well, among the different phenotypes that we have. Do we want the substitution of biological biomarkers as amyloidosis and tau? The answer is no. But we have also to demonstrate that this digital biomarker has the capacity to be correlated with these gold standard parameters. And in the last line, you can see also, okay, also something that is for us specifically very interesting, that is the capacity of this protocol of spontaneous speech to be correlated with those cognitive domains that are considered cardinal elements in the definition of the condition, that are executive function, memory, and visuospatial capacity. So we have the capacity to discriminate and to predict all these interesting domains. And in this publication, as you can see here, we have one of the largest samples, 3 spoken tags, very easy to deploy. It takes no more than 3 minutes. And the language that we use in this first contact with in Spanish. But also something interesting for us is to move this discriminant capacity to a longitudinal study, under a longitudinal repeated measures perspective, because most of the research that you will find in this field is done in the context of crossover designs. So thanks to the COMFORTage project, we have the opportunity, it's something that we are deploying just now, the opportunity to analyze the cognitive conditions of our patients, our participants in our specific pilot, thanks to the use of a spontaneous speech protocol in a remote format at home. Every 3-4 months, we deploy the project. We use the digital platform to analyze spontaneous speech. And the main idea here is to validate a proxy of the cognitive status of our patients, again, at home and remotely. What happens with the classical approaches in terms, for example, clinical trial designs? When you are working in the context of these digital biomarkers, something that you see is that it's extremely difficult, the deployment of this kind of methodological approaches, because the high controlled conditions that they assume are extremely difficult for this kind of approaches. For example, in terms of the time that you need to deploy a clinical trial, is something that you have to keep in mind, because every 10 years you have new mathematical models, you have new computerized options, okay, and it's extremely difficult to fit all these digital necessities in the context of a very controlled design. So the key point here is just to deploy real-world core data, to have the opportunity to deploy embedded validation process, to be continuously monitoring your own system. And the key point is the possibility to have adaptive evidence generation. So this is something that connects our memory unit with the community. Yeah? Because what we want to do is to move the focus from the old paradigm to a new one, based on this perception, based on primary prevention in practice, reaching people where they are. So we developed 1 year ago, we deployed a project in pharmacies around our memory unit in one district in Barcelona, the district, Las Corts is the name of our district. We have the opportunity to deploy the project based on the analysis of spontaneous speech in order to detect people at risk in 10 different pharmacies with more than 1,500 participants. We see that more than 50% of the people that was assessed using this protocol was considered as a moderate at high risk. And at the moment of this speech, this webinar, we have seen more than 150 of those users of pharmacies in order to corroborate the cognitive status. But this activity is possible thanks to the joint of obviously our institution, but also the digital platform via Punto, and the money that Nutricia. Nutricia is it's an arm of Danone. They are focused on they work in some nutritional products focused on dementia. And they paid the money of provided by Nutricia by Danone is just to pay for the people that it's our people, that not our people, but young people, medical students that are in the pharmacies attending the deployment of the project.
Sergi, sorry, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, something that I have to add is that 1 week ago, we deployed a second wave of this project, in this case involving 25 pharmacies during 6 months. We have also experience in the context of residential communities. The idea here is to have a different community model, but also apply the same biomarker logic in a different real-world constraint. We have learned a lot of things. We have learned that we have to be continuously checking the outputs that we are obtaining in these different communities. There's a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. For example, the audio quality variability, the environmental noise. To think that the people that you have in pharmacies are not clinical specialists in dementia. To keep in mind that you will generate you have to manage the generation of false positive cases, because depending on the population that you are approaching, you have to modulate, you have to adapt your procedures to these news, to these news populations, etc., etc. So we have also the possibility for these people that we are detecting in the community to offer them the possibility, for example, in our case, to the possibility to be part of our clinical trials. And we have clinical trials with healthy people, with people without symptoms, because we are in a very special historical moment in terms of treatment. So we offer them the possibility to be part of this process. Just in terms ending my presentation, I don't have conclusions. I have just take-home messages. The first one is spontaneous speech is a viable real-world biomarker, but evidence generation must remain rigorous and realistic, adjusted to these community conditions. AI-based digital health tools requires more than classical clinical trials context. Real-world evidence is part of the solution. To have a very sophisticated technology is not enough. The deployment requires the industry collaboration, operational infrastructure, and the clinical capacity not only to detect, but also to respond when a case is identified. Prevention requires physical living in the clinic, pharmacy, residential communities, as I explained you before. And the question is not if the AI works in dementia. The answer is crystal, is yes. The key point is what conditions make it deployable in real health systems. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sergi. I think that it's definitely perfectly launches the debate, and you absolutely respect exactly what I wanted to have in this webinar. So a very concrete example of something which can make a real difference in prevention, but also, as you rightly mentioned it, that in terms of continuous monitoring, so that can be also completely integrated in the pathway. So thank you very much. So we now have a second perspective, but remaining exactly on the same topic from Margarita. Margarita is coming from CERTH in Greece. We are lucky enough to have also CERTH in COMFORTage, but CERTH is a very active organization, so she's active in quite a number of projects. So she's also active in another project called Predictum, which is also working on this with, I would say, a complementary approach. And she will try to first to explain us what the approach is, and also to tell us why she believes that the solution proposed as a nice opportunity for implementation, and how they plan to connect the evidence to convince the people that it's the right approach to it. So, Margarita, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction and for inviting Predictum here today. And hello, everyone. I would briefly share my slides. Excellent. So I will be presenting on behalf of the Predictum Consortium our contribution and insights in the context of evidence and innovation in digital health services, hopefully to contribute to this very interesting discussion and webinar. So a very brief introduction regarding the project. It is a Horizon Europe IHI joint undertaking. The overall project duration is 4 years. The consortium consists of 30 partners across 15 countries. And of course, as in most of those projects, a multidisciplinary team is in place to support all these activities, namely partners from academia, industry, hospitals, patient organizations, etc. So the project objective is to develop an AI-driven screening platform for early prediction of AD, with a focus being on early diagnosis and, of course, improved patient stratification. In the slide, we can see the clinical pathway along with the integrated Predictum approach. So this is an ideal scenario. The platform includes a plethora of tests yielding numerous markers. We will look into them in detail at the next slides. And the aim is to reach people at home prior to disease onset, prior to symptoms that would bring them to the general practitioner. And at the same time, we aim to support the healthcare professionals and clinics with all the obtained knowledge and this additional tool. As you can see, the methodology entails also an AI model that utilizes the real-world data towards early and improved patient stratification. So we will talk about this as well. Regarding the concept and methodology in more detail, so the graph depicts what we call the funneling process that we follow in the project. The Predictome platform, which includes this multimodal biomarker framework, is used by 4,000 participants, healthy participants, so no active diagnosis of AD, and no symptoms yet in place. So this is what we call the level 1, the at-home study. Then we have an initial AI machine learning model based on retrospective real-world data, as well as guidelines and appropriate literature. And it is used to stratify people into categories of higher and lower risk of developing dementia and AD, apologies. Based on this categorization, 615 people will progress to level 2, what you can see in the graph, the level 2 in clinic assessment. In level 2, additional tests are carried out, including more elaborate blood tests, imaging, EEG. Then in parallel, ground truth information will be collected for these 615 participants in the form of PET scans and CSF. And afterwards, the machine learning model will be validated according to the obtained study data and insights from Predictome and will be further improved. The study is currently ongoing in 7 countries. And here you can see briefly the biomarker protocols. So there is a lot of information here. So I will briefly mention that the biomarkers and corresponding features have been investigated in the context of the project, but based also on previous work and previous projects. We have defined detailed protocols and SOPs and share them with the clinical partners. We are aiming for a balance of innovation, for example, in what features we are extracting and how these contribute to the early diagnosis and prevention. And we are aiming to balance this with validated and robust approaches. Very briefly, our role in Predictome, just to facilitate the information I provided in the previous slides. So, for example, CERTH in Predictome is leading the work package regarding the biomarkers. We are contributing with the development and deployment of a banking app, which is a digitalized test aiming to assess the managing finances capacity of a participant. For level 2, we are contributing with an EEG protocol and relevant SOPs and training activities across sites. And along with other partners, of course, we have the data and model support through the development of a comprehensive codebook with all these features. As you imagine, this multimodal biomarker framework has a lot of information, a lot of features that need descriptions to be understandable and usable. And we also participate in activities of feature combination. Summarizing the innovative and most interesting aspects of Predictome, we highlight the inclusion of these diverse biomarkers, which maximize the chances of detection of subtle and early changes in AD. We have the use of AI-driven predictive modeling, which enhances the personalization and the accuracy. Then the contextual diversity and the multinational validation through the study reinforce this real-world applicability and scalability of our approach, while the novel cost-efficient diagnostic pathway focuses healthcare resources on patients at highest risk, in this way supporting the development of future clinical guidelines. Then we have the approach that, of course, introduces a plethora of challenges, but at the same time, we are looking at these challenges and we are looking to address these challenges and align with the innovation and the generation of evidence. So some examples here, we have the access to high-quality harmonized clinical data sets. These are needed for the first stages of the model development. So by accessing these readily available real-world data sets, we are building on existing information, enabling more efficient evidence generation. We have the patient populations and clinical care pathways better represented in this way, and it supports a scalable and implementation-oriented digital health innovation. Regarding the integration of these heterogeneous and multimodal data sources that I presented, we are trying to use interoperable modular plug-and-play components. In this way, we have a standardized integration that ensures consistent and reliable evidence. This allows us the rapid experimentation and, of course, the continuous improvement without disturbing the overall workflow. Then regarding the data integrity and risk of data loss, as you can imagine, the study collects a plethora of data that should be properly processed and stored in dedicated repositories. So we have these dedicated data repositories. We have systematic quality checks that strengthen data integrity and minimize exactly the risk of data loss. And we have the real-world efficiency with the structured evidence, helping balance the clinical innovation with trustworthy outcomes. So data properly in place. Moving on, we have the validation of AI models in real-world settings. So this is quite important because we are testing our AI models under clinical conditions rather than computational settings. The large cohort also increases the confidence in the model, and this can ensure the rigorous testing prior to a wider deployment. Then we have the clinical site's readiness for level 2. So this is quite an important task. For this, we have SOPs in place. We have hands-on trainings and dry runs. In this way, the structured and reproducible operational framework is in place and allows consistent data collection. While the clinical utility and regulatory expectations are assessed early in this way, so this is quite important. And moving beyond the consortium and data sharing beyond the consortium, we are aiming for the use of the OMOP format, the OMOP CDM format, and this allows us a consistent and interoperable data structure, which strengthens, of course, reliability and comparability of the evidence, while it will allow us to broadly share and allow for broader research. The current status of the project and our ongoing activities, we are currently at month 31 of the project. The level 1 study, so the 4,000 participant enrollment efforts are fully underway, while the level 2 study has been initiated with the first participants enrolled. In parallel, we are monitoring and supporting the data collection. We are looking into the features and provide feature curation, while the interim analysis has now started. And moving from evidence to pathways to implementation, moving from tools to clinical confidence, even with validated biomarkers and guidelines and a robust data infrastructure in place, the individual adoption depends on people trusting the system and recognizing clear added value. The ensuring real-world feasibility for the successful uptake of the Predictome platform, we need to make sure that we support targeted training, we support the healthcare professional, we support them with decision support, and we have minimal added workload for them. So this is quite an important point as well. While regarding the regulatory and policy endorsement, the societal adoption depends on early and continuous engagements with the regulators and the HTA bodies to demonstrate implementation value. And I would like to close with the following remark that evidence generation and innovation may often be perceived as conflicting objectives, and aim at the Predictome project is to show that exactly the sustainable innovation in healthcare relies on robust evidence and trusted implementation, and of course aligns with clinical and societal needs. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Margarita. And actually, well, one thing which is important, I think you mentioned, but basically for everyone to understand, so the original product, you see it as a two-steps approach, basically, where you really think that the original screening should be in people's hands, and then you design the secondary, more complex assessment, right?
Yes, so we have the
because I think it's important to understand that for people to clearly understand, because for people who are not completing the project, maybe that was not yet crystal clear. So could you just in 1 minute re-explain how concretely it will work for people?
Yes, thank you. So yes, to make this completely clear, so this is a platform that can be accessed via the computer that everyone has at home, and it is a number of tests, questionnaires, some demographic information, and then digital tests, for example, some gamified version of a neuropsychological test, an online brain check test. We have an online hearing test as well, eye tracking. So these are all assessments that the participant can perform at home. And then the machine learning algorithm discriminates participants into into two categories, higher and lower risk, and these participants move on to level 2, which has the more elaborate tests that of course need to be performed in clinic. So these are in clinic assessments and are imaging, elaborate tests, blood tests, and for example EEG.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Sarah, is there any question of clarification for the first two presentations?
Yes. So from Mark about the evidence question, if it's related only about tool and related processes or also about biomarker, is for Sergi. And there is, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not understanding correctly the question. Sarah, could you repeat?
Yes. So the evidence question is about the tool and related processes, not about the biomarker. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I will try to make it because even my wording. Sergi, indeed, the problem of evidence and going too fast or not. My understanding is that it is mainly about you need to have any. Oh, sorry, reset. Even in my brain, I need to clarify. The speed of innovation is so fast that evidence does not work with respect to when you are using AI, when you are using tools. That's clear, and that's a clear message that I got.
Sorry, but if it's a clarification question, no problem. But if it's already going to the life cycle, let's keep it for after.
It is a clarification question, and the question was that the spontaneous speech biomarker, is there already evidence that this is a valid biomarker, and then only the tool needs to be proven, or is it still do you still need evidence for the biomarker itself?
We have a lot of consolidated evidence identifying spontaneous speech as a very good biomarker, not only in research but also in the deployment in applied context. There's a lot of papers.
Yeah, and I would just like we couldn't have everybody, but another partner in the consortium, Intras, for example, is also developing, but with virtual reality, such a screening tool, for which they already collected a very large evidence. So those tools, well, I mean, are they all equivalent? Probably not completely, because the sensibility could be a bit different or whatsoever. So there is more studies to be done and so on. But I think we have a large amount of evidence. Is there any other burning question before we move, Sarah?
I think I saw Ken raising hand.
Yeah, he needs to be allowed to speak, Maria. Then.
Now Kenneth should be able to open his mic and camera if he still would like to speak.
Well, it was actually a question, but if I relabel it a clarification, I might be allowed to ask it. So the clarification was really, what do people make of being told they're at high risk based on the spontaneous speech? Because ultimately, they're going to have to do the things that they should be doing anyway, diet, exercise, sleep. So is it helpful, and what is the feedback you're getting on it? Sergi.
And are you asking about how we create our algorithms, how we create our cutoffs?
No, it's just the question is that doesn't the fact that they know they are at risk, well, we know already what the people should do. Is it really bringing value, basically?
Is it motivating them? I mean, you've
motivating them.
You've interviewed all these people, lots of people. You've told them they're at higher risk. What do they make of it? Do they suddenly go out and start living better, or do they just get worried? What happens? Sorry, it's a bit of a broad question. Maybe we should save it.
You have a lot of variability. For example, we obtain the informed consent at the moment of the screening, and we inform them that there's the possibility of a second step. That means if I identifying you as a positive case, then I will call you in order to offer the possibility to be assessed in our memory unit. Okay, when we call these people, we have a high range of different answers. There's a lot of people that is worried. Okay, you said me that I'm a positive case, but I'm not having evident symptoms. My life is okay. The current status, okay. I don't want to visit you, especially when they know that you are coming from an Alzheimer unit. They are reluctant to this possibility, okay. That's my participation has finished, but there's other participants that they are really very, very excited with this possibility. And when you receive these people at the unit, we have visited more than 150 of these pharmacy users. Okay, they are really open. They are really open to do a lot of things. And I'm not talking only about the clinical trials, as I was trying to show you, with new pharmacological treatments, but also to be part of the new projects based on nutrition recommendations, physical activity, etc., etc. Keep in mind, Ken, that we usually talk about old people. Okay. All people, and the possibility to modify, to effectively modify the behavior of these people, it's more difficult than when you are in your 50s or even in your 60s. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sergi. So I think we need to move on. We will come back on that, but just as a personal experience, I mean, if you ever typed on Google, whatever, screening dementia, you will see that you will be proposed non-stop screening tools, and I guess that of course with a commercial purpose most of the time, where they ask you to perform and so on. So basically, I would be surprised to know how many people answer, but I think many people actually want to know. So but that's my personal opinion. So let's see. So let's move now to Carme, who has a very important perspective to bring, because basically they are, as a policy implementer, supporting at least policy implementation in TicSalut in Catalonia. They have the very difficult role to select the best of breeds. And as I just mentioned, well, we see that some have been more cautious than others, some have been more innovative, and I think Catalonia is really a front leader in Europe in this perspective. But I asked you to look more specifically into the prevention domain, the prevention domain, which is probably the one which has not been so much explored yet by digital public implementers. So, Carmen, we are all ears.
Okay, thank you, Luke, and good afternoon all. Yes, exactly. I think it's a very huge pathway, no, to help this innovation to be adopted into the clinical practice. So I think is what we are working here in Catalonia. I'm responsible for the mHealth area in TicSalut and Social Foundation, which is a public agency within the Catalan Ministry of Health. So before to start, I think it's interesting to explain which is the concept that we are working on and how we can identify those digital solutions. We talk in Catalonia about digital assets for citizens in terms of those digital solutions that can be focusing or to add some kind of value to a citizens in all the perspective in health and social welfare activities. So I think this is the concept that we are working on when we check or see which are the kind of solutions that currently we have in Catalonia in terms of adding some kind of value to those patients. We separate this concept into kind of solutions. Those patient assets that are focusing to help the management of the common practice in the centers, in hospitals or primary care, like make some kind of appointments and these kind of things. But the other huge amount of digital assets are focusing on prevention, promotion, these health and wellness assets. No, actually, in the next, let me move the slide. Yes, in the previously year, 2 years ago, sorry, we did conducted a study in all the regions, saying which are the number of digital services that currently the healthcare providers are deploying into the citizens. And they say that around 70% of these hospitals are providing currently digital services. These digital assets, in one way or another, are included maybe in the web page, is published is provided through an app or another kind of services embedded in another maybe super app or whatever. So in terms of digital assets, one of the key digital assets that all the citizens in Catalonia have it's called La Meva Salut, that most of you maybe know. It's a place where all the citizens in Catalonia can have access to their health information, can provide or check their results, test results. They can do a lot of functionalities through this app. But this app, maybe needs to evolve, including more preventing, more active, solutions that can be an added value to the citizens. So what we have been working on which are the best way to adopt these kind of solutions, because this is the public side, but when there are a lot of amount of apps as you see here in dementia, etc., that are developed by third party, and I think it's important to take care to take into account, that all this innovation can bring a huge value, So for this reason, I think we have been working in 2015 from now in a healthcare assessment process or to see, which are the best way to adopt these solutions. Currently, we have an innovation and adoption program focusing on digital assets in Catalonia that try to solve, or try to support these innovations. This program, it's we have a very very high difference from the beginning. That it's important to put in place all the actors that are involved in that process in the same page. This is the first part. Second, we try to identify the priorities or the needs, to try to solve this technology. The third part is aligning with this innovation, with this app library, with all the innovation that we know that we currently have in Catalonia, which fit with these needs. And finally, obviously, we need to solve, to check this evidence, to assess, in one way or another, if these solutions get these objectives. So this framework follow these steps, and I'll try to make easier for you and to see more focus on the topic of today and how we can help these technologies, these entities, to have this evidence. This is what we asked in this assessment process, because imagine when, as it appears along the discussion of today, that getting this minimum level of evidence, it's not easy. But to ensure and to as a public system, we need to ensure that these solutions get this minimum set of criteria, to guarantee that these solutions have the confidence by citizens. So we ask in this assessment process with these four blocks: reliable content when we talk about an app and an app for health, and that can improve this prevention and these kind of things. Also, we talk about accessible and usability aspects. Also, secure data in terms of privacy and secure the technological aspects. And finally, robust build, it means that the technology works properly and not fails. So the process consists that there are different actions. One is prior to assessment, because it is really basic for all the healthcare centers that needs to check these guidelines. We build some kind of guidelines to help into the development of these digital health solutions, saying which these are the topics that are going to be checked in the assessment framework. This helps a lot when we talk as a public system that they know that there are a lot of innovation there, but maybe if they don't take into account those criteria from the scratch, it's really difficult to accomplish at the final process. Finally, one of the key objectives that wants the Ministry of Health is not to have the duplicity maybe of most of the services. There are innovation centers in public places, hospitals or whatever, that develop the same app with the same objective, and they are public resources in most of the cases. So maybe to avoid that, first we recommend to check this app library if there are something created. The second step before assess is self-assessment, because to avoid going through a process that are very huge and very not faster, I think it's important to check with 40 questions which are the topics that are going to be that you need to overcome to pass the process, and this is helpful. It's something that can do whatever at their homes and very faster. And finally, before starting the assessment, they need to fulfill and to fill in an evidence form with a lot of evidence and a lot of documentation, a lot of information. But we help on that. We help on including all these materials, and we provide a lot of support on that. This, after the entity provide this information, we perform the assessment process. We check the responses, and this is the key part. All the evidence, there is a lot of evidence generated in that process. Evidence that are generated the company that wants to pass the process. That could be documents, could be websites, declaration of conformity in case of medical device, scientific evidence, a lot of information. Around 80% of the criteria require evidence, maybe some declaration of responsibility, but they need to fulfill with something. But there are another huge of evidence provided by the evaluator. Around 88% of these criteria, we as a certification entity, we provide with some evidence, screenshots, websites, etc. And this is the last part that is very crucial. I think it's very helpful to do some kind of meetings with the company, helping them to prepare all this information, clarifications, because most of the cases, the evidence are there, but maybe are not well structured, etc. So we try to help all the company, no, because we don't want to be a stopper. And finally, we communicate our results through an ISO, because this assessment framework is based on the ISO 82304-2 that is linked also to a European project, Label to Enable European project, that that is focused to adopt this label in the different regions. We have adopted in Catalonia, and we currently have our framework on that label, that it seems to be like a transparency of that process, no? To see, for instance, which are the results of these 4 blocks: reliable content, accessibility, data security, etc. This is in Catalan, but the model is follow that label that it's published. And currently we have this kind of solutions that has passed this process. This process takes around 80 or 10 weeks to perform of the process, because depending of the doubts or the support that the company needs. And this is an example of, for instance, CERTH, which is this application. It's from a healthcare center that provide with some kind of questionnaires to the citizens to kind of prevention in different pathways. Then another in the right side, it's Prevecan, which is an app for prevention in kind of cancer. Another one is Doctomatic, which is an app that collects data from and helps in the integration of different data from different devices, and it's more focused on hospitals. That's that app. But there are another for nurses, which is called LacTap. That when the nurses recommended this app to all the mothers in Catalonia that has their baby, and it's for breastfeeding, not to help to how to breastfeed your baby. So these are different examples of an app that can help or add this kind of value to the citizen. And which kind of mechanisms of integration or adoption there are in Catalonia? There are so many, but there are different integration models depending on the kind of solutions, because as you said, there are a lot of different innovations. Most of we talk about an app, and maybe it's interesting to be in La Meva Salut as an app for prevention or promotion wellness habits or something like that, but could be an app or a services that deploy through to the old system, like in case of diabetes, there has to be a procurement process for diabetes that has been adopted around all the system, or directly integrate, embed a service within La Meva Salut as a part of the service, like the Prevencan. Prevencan is an app that it's more focused to explain and to have some videos, some interactive things, to help in prevention in case of in cancer. So depending on the kind of solutions, the integration could be very different. Or the last one, it's CERTH, that is more focusing or available in some parts, in some regions of Catalonia that provide this service because it's linked to a specific hospital. And that's it from my side. And also, finally, it's we provide some guidelines on some support, infographics, on some information to companies, that maybe have some doubts on. In the case of medical devices, this is an example, but we have others. And that's it. I'll try to.
Thank you very much, Carme. So just one thing just for clarification. So when you say you support companies with MDR, so that means that you accept that they are not yet, for example, we are speaking increasingly about class 2A, for example, or even possibly if there are interventions first in class 2B products. So that's what is really original. So you don't wait for them to have done, so you accompany them, and they can do work with you and then indeed get the CE marking on top of it. So that's what I got from you. And the second thing, before I give the floor to Raquel, which has huge amount of comments and questions behind it on all the large information we have. In the examples you provided, do you have an example of a digital tool that have been directly promoted to the population?
Yeah.
Is there one in terms of prevention? Is there one? And can you just tell us which one then?
In case of PreventCan, actually, it's adapted to another app that it's called CERTH, which is an app developed by the public Salud Pública, which I don't remember. Yes, well, another entity in Catalonia that developed this kind of app that it's going to all the citizens. It's focusing not only for cancer, but also for prevention in general, not as a specific, to have better habits, to have some diets and these kind of things, more global. Yeah.
Thank you, Carme. So Raquel, now up to you with the background. Where basically, well, your job is really to act as an incubator, so really to try to bring innovation into implementation as quick as possible. So what does all those things tell you, and which kind of comments can you make on this?
Thank you, Luke. Indeed. So although I still have a kind of researcher mindset from my past scientist life, I speak a different language now. I work with innovation programs and with startups and companies. So the overall presentations today actually raise the universe of reflections and questions, which I think some of those points were already mentioned. But I want to bring to discussion 2 or 3 points, interacting also with the different speakers of today, to support the reflection, not just from all the projects that are ongoing, but also from the audience. The first point would be on public procurement, on innovation procurement. As we know, in most European public health systems, digital health tools above certain thresholds are subject to public procurement law. And this applies not just to digital tools, but several other things. And that means, especially for startups, that we have open tenders, technical specifications that are drafted months before the actual award. We have evaluation criteria that weight across price, technical capacity, and compliance. And almost rarely or never across clinical outcome evidence. And this means that a tool with an AUC of 0.94, as Sergi was presenting, and a tool with an AUC of 0.72 can sit in the same procurement process and be evaluated identically, because the tender specification did not ask for that kind of clinical outcome. And this touches the point of the clinical evidence that is generated and that is in the end procured. These are examples of things that match both what was presented, but also things that happened in the past and that the startups and the innovators actually raise as difficulties. And I would say this overall creates a perverse dynamics in which you would need the procurement to fund partially the evidence, while you need evidence to win procurement. And so the circle does not close, and this brings a difficulty for early players in the market. So what I felt from the experience of talking with different founders was that these teams may eventually break out this loop in 2 different ways. Either they find a clinical partner willing to embed them in a research or a pilot context, like Sergi did with Punto Health and Nutrition, or they find a route into health systems through a backdoor. This means that they do not include or integrate a standalone product, but they use a feature embedded with an existing environment, or like a hospital information system or a patient portal and or so on and so on, that is already contracted. So these are 2 options, but they seem to be still far from the optimal. So linking here with what was presented, my first point would be, for instance, the work that Sergi presented. The pharmacy deployment, for instance, is funded through an industry partnership, not through an health system procurement. How do you see this public-private partnership actually approximating or not towards the final adoption and the health procurement, the health system integration? Would that help, or it didn't make a difference yet, or no thoughts?
I have some thoughts to this respect. At the beginning of everything, okay, it's for a memory unit that it's part of the public system. So that means to move something from your office to the community is extremely difficult. Okay. But this is something that we want to modify. Okay, we want to move our attention from the memory unit with our neurologist, with our neuropsychologist, that they have a traditional way of working. Okay, in this hospital framework. Okay, but we have to move the attention from this framework to the community. But at the beginning of everything, to do this, I have to say that you need the support of someone else, okay? And I'm not talking about the digital platform, okay? We have Punto. Between us and Punto, there's no economical interest, okay? They put the platform, we put our part of the scientific knowledge, our clinical experience, etc., etc. We are also enriching the platform thanks to our data. Okay, it's a quid pro quo, using Latin. No, there's a win-win between the two institutions. But I have to say that we need to have people in the pharmacies waiting for the users. Okay. I cannot use my neuropsychologist, I cannot use my neurologist doing this kind of activities. We need people, and we have to pay to these people. And this is the role of Nutricia, because Nutricia is paying for those that are attending the pharmacy users in the pharmacy. Okay, so we need the money to do this kind of things, but to do these specific things, that it's to pay for someone to deploy the project. Okay, but in the case, for example, I share a second scenario. There was residential communities. In this case, that you have a very close community residents. Okay, the people that that is living in this context. What we can do, but it's money that we put on the table. It's our budget. Okay, we move some of our specialists, for example, a neuropsychologist, to these communities to deploy the assessment process. But this is our budget. Okay, we are dedicated our private budget to this kind of activities because we think that it's also interesting for us to do this in order to have the opportunity to look for these people that is at risk, that in other ways it's extremely difficult to identify.
Thank you. You raised a lot of questions with just your answer, but thank you.
Raquel, just one second, yeah. Just to say that while we are talking, we just launching a very simple polls in the chat, so if the people can answer, but please, go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Please answer the poll. In the meantime, we will continue the discussion now with Margarita.
Yeah, sure.
So Predictum is a multi-country designed study. When I was interested because taking the example from Spain and how they are moving with the assessment and this collaboration with the regional government and so on, in terms of when your platform is ready, do you have a feeling on what national health system would be closest to being able to procure it or somehow make it happen towards the adoption? Just to understand in terms of country level how this is playing.
Thank you for the question. Yes, so the platform itself builds on the Protect platform that was originally developed in UK and has already a lot of evidence with thousands of participants contributing to the data collection, etc. So the platform itself is built on this initial study and this initial platform. So I think it would be closest to the UK, mainly. Speaking from my experience in Greece, also, yes, we have a lot to consider, because from the one aspect we have this very easy to use at home setting, but we need to consider the populations, maybe the elderly populations, and how easy it is to have this digital approach for the prevention and the risk assessment. So yes, a lot to consider afterwards regarding the integration into the healthcare systems themselves. What is very interesting and yes, I think very relevant is that we have the participation of the hospitals. So we do get first experiences from the clinicians on how easy it is to implement and what makes sense. And for example, this is always nice because we have the collaboration of the technical and the clinical partners, and maybe we prepare a protocol that includes a number of features and a number of assessments, and then we bring it to the clinical partners and they say, but this cannot be implemented in the patient journey. This is too long, this is too tiresome, this does not yield the proper evidence. So the complete interaction and being a part of this patient journey from the technical aspect provides all this information that will be relevant for the adoption of the healthcare systems.
Okay, perfect. And now, Carmen, building a bit on this, I would say that from an adoption perspective, the assessment tool might be quite helpful for early players, for startups, and so on. Do you see, does this help for this type of innovation actors to actually progress towards adoption? What does it happen once they run through the assessment?
Yes, I think for early adopters, it's interesting to get into that program, because we help on all the process of adoption in different perspectives, through doubts that they have in data, which the data will be stored in the future, if they get systemic, or doubts in regarding to get this the minimum evidence as to get the healthcare the declaration of conformity as a medical device regulation. A lot of that on that part, because they don't get this minimum of level of trials and this kind of thing. So what we have we have very close to the European the Sant Pau, which is a hospital that has that helps to them to demonstrate to get these trials, to get this minimum evidence. So with this validation center of Sant Pau, I think it's another solution that we link it with them, to help them to provide with this minimum of evidence. And another stopper, I think, it's to think about a systemic solution, because interoperability in terms of vocabulary of controls and the structure of the message should follow. For example, fire or this kind of interoperability, it's a need. And most of the cases, as an early adopter, they don't get, or they are not used to work with the standards in terms of lines, nomads, etc., and also this syntactic interoperability. So I think also this is also a stopper that maybe they have in that process of adoption. At the end, I think of that funnel, when they get the minimum set of criteria and all the perspective, I think there is a need of an integration that at the end of that funnel, it's needed. No, for example, the data where it's collected in the system. Most of the cases, if we talk about not clinical variables, for instance, most of these solutions are collecting not clinical variables, and the system are not used to storage this data into the PHR of the patient. So this is also a huge part, I think. And most of the cases, the solutions are located in one region or for a specific citizen, and open to all the spectrum. Also, it's difficult. And fit needs. This is another thing. No, most of the policies define, or the healthcare systems are defining needs, and they try to focus using or solve these needs. No, in case of prevention, I think it's one of the prioritized in most of the systems. This is not a problem, I would say, but yeah, I think this is the way.
Thank you, Carmen. It was super clear, and still raising some other questions for reflection. And it also links to my next point, that would be about value creation and the ecosystem and stakeholder needs. But just if I may sum up, I think there is, first of all, a clear difference, as it always has been, a clear difference at the country level, first of all. But there is a specific effort of some regions to contribute to a stepwise adoption, or at least trying to improve locally, and putting money locally, as the example said before, to try to move forward. It means that in terms of adoption, there is a willingness to do that. It's just not a sufficient global effort or harmonized effort to go there. Okay, so now, and I think that even the different answers touched already that point of value creation. When we speak about value creation, and I do this a lot when I'm working on proposals, for instance, in which we already at the proposal stage, we have to develop business models. We need to speak the language of the different stakeholders that are involved. And as Sergi beautifully exemplified before, when you contact someone saying, look, you were identified as being at risk of, it scares people. So it's you have to speak different languages, from the patient perspective, from the person perspective that focuses on quality of life, autonomy, and even reducing fear, to the clinician that speaks the language of workflow. And this connects well with what Luke was presenting at the beginning. So things that actually solve the most immediate pain points get adopted faster. And if we start to look at the different pain points that are addressed by the different technologies that are presented here, it might help definitely to facilitate communication to the different stakeholders, and of course to transmit the value of the technologies and the scientific advances to the different stakeholders. And coming to that, one thing that makes me think a lot is the current standard model for clinical startup collaboration in European health research, for instance, which is not working really well, because for now, you see, like, a research consortium is built to receive EU funding. That's fine. Everything is moving forward. There's a need. There's startups participating, but they are often invited, or industries are often invited to play a role as a technology provider or technology developer or a pilot. But then in the end, what happens with the technology that is being developed? What is really who is really taking up the technology? Because there's a lot of intellectual property playing a role here, and sometimes it's co-owned within the consortium, and technology stalls there because these discussions are not taken up front during the preparation. And I know you have hands-on experience, so if any of you want to comment on that, please let me know. I think that the work that is being done on projects, it's quite a lot. The scientific and technical progress is undeniable, and I won't argue on that. but we still need to think in the end, because these discussions do not happen on time, in the end, who is taking up the value that is being created, so that this can also turn into real adoption pathways. This is a huge problem in many new projects.
Thank you so much, Rocco, for this interactive moderation. Very much to the point. We need to close as we have used out our time. What struck me, however, is that basically, the very particular ecosystem, especially in the case of Catalonia that you rightly described, and even what Sergi described also in his presentation. So this very intricate synergy between different segments of industry, with clinicians, with researchers. So where we avoid this divide of developing a solution and then trying to find the users. No, you have the users who sell the solution for you, basically. And then you create the link with the policymakers, and you have the relays. And your second message that I really like, and I know we are very strong supporters of that in the project, we need new relays. We need new relays to support those innovations. And indeed, what Catalonia is doing again in trying to help innovators to bring their solution, to validate that, and to obviously to put them into people's hands, to pharmacies, to communities, or directly via people. And that's also what Predictum is trying to do in this own perspective. From an own perspective, I think it's really a very interesting prospect. So I would like to thank you all for your very active participation in this webinar. There will be another CCF webinar next month, so stay tuned on the CCF platform, and thank you very much. See you around very soon.